Over the last few weeks, there has been so much death, destruction, and violence happening, both in our country and globally. Whether we're looking at the mass murders that we just witnessed in California, or the horrific killing of Tyre, the funeral and aftermath in Memphis, are all the many different travesties that are happening on a global stage. The reality is we are dealing with a lot. It reminds me of that text in Mark 4 where the disciples on the boat with Jesus are just surrounded by so many winds and waves, and they are doing the best they can, right? They've got buckets. They are trying to get all the water out. They're trying to make it. They're doing the best they can. But it seems as though they are outmatched and overwhelmed. It seems as though the storms are too heavy and too many for them to care for on their own. And so they go and get Jesus. And one of the things I love about that text, we often preach, for us preachers out there, us lovers of the gospel, we often preach that piece where Jesus says, "Peace, be still," and speaking to the storm. But I want to bring your attention to what he says right before he says, "Peace, be still," to the storm. Right before he says that, Jesus first rebukes the winds. And in fact, if we go back in the Old Testament and we look at the book of Psalms, the 46th chapter, the 10th verse, that's where we have the words of heaven, right, being echoed by the writer saying, "Be still and know that I'm God," right? That same stillness. But Psalms 46 and 9, right? We hear that God will make the wars to cease. God will break the bows. God will tear up the spears. God will set the chariots on fire, and therefore be still and know that I am God. There's some stuff God is doing, right, in Psalms before we are still. There's some stuff that Jesus does in Mark 4 before we are still. And so they work together. Part of the reason we can be still, whether it's in Psalms 46, or whether it's in Mark, the 4th chapter, or whether it's today, part of the reason we can be still is because God is working. God is moving. God is doing so many things that we're able to turn our gaze to see what God is doing, to work with God. Then we can find the peace and the stillness we need in seasons like this. So my challenge for you is to breathe, is to drink some fresh water, is to check on yourself, and then is to look and see where are the spaces, where are the places that God is moving, that you can put your hands and your feet in, that you can be a part of, so that you can know that stillness that Jesus speaks about, and that stillness that the writer, the prophets talk about. Where are the places where you can be still by gazing and working and doing what God is doing? Be well and be still.